And when the judge walks out, he sits down on the bench. But we say the judge is ruling from the bench. What is a bench? Look it up in a Latin dictionary. A bench is a bank. And what does a bank do? A bank directs the flow of the currency because it's a river bank. And so it directs the flow of the currency because your money is the cash flow, the liquid asset. It's the law of water, maritime admiralty.
How does this relate to UCC?
Oh, the UCC is merely a part of the whole superstructure of maritime admiralty. All of this is talking about the law of water is the law of banks. And the judge rules from the bench, which is a bank, in Latin. Look it up in a Latin dictionary. Bench is a bank because in the Middle East, thousands of years ago in Jerusalem and Syria and Lebanon, and even today in Egypt, you walk down the street and there'll be people sitting on the street and they got a bench in front of them and they're selling things. And if you buy something, you have to lean down and they will make the change there on the bench. And they're selling their watches or whatever off the bench and you put your money on the bench. So the word bench is a bank. And so the judge rules from the bench, which means he is representing the bank. And therefore, since he's ruling for the bank, somebody's going to pay their debt to society. Mm-hmm. Somebody's going to pay. So bring your checkbook. And if you can't pay, then you're going to jail where they will put you in a cell because you're a biological battery. And they will, and you know, your body is a security on the New York Stock Exchange.
Right,
well,
right.
A lot of people don't know that.
The birth certificates are traded.
Yeah, it's being traded every day. Your body is being bought and sold around the world and traded on stock exchanges around the world. And but happily, that's not important because it has nothing to do with football. And so, well, I mean, it's true. It has nothing to do with anything that's of importance like basketball and Britney Spears or any of the silly nonsensical games that people play. I'm just interested in the real world.
Well, you're talking
where
about
the real people operate. I'm interested in knowing who is owning us in our bodies. Who owns your body? Who controls your country? And where are you going? And I always say to Christians, if you think for 1 minute that when you die you're going to go before God and you're going to be judged before God, then my suggestion to you is that you had better start thinking about what you're going to say when you're before God and you find out that you never knew the truth about anything ever and that you were deceived by the great deceiver. Because you're telling me that Satan is a very big deceiver. He's the master deceiver who can deceive. The whole world can be deceived by him except you. And the whole world is standing in the power of the wicked one. Satan, the devil, is the great deceiver who deceives all the nations of the people of the world except your church in Alabama. And that's the only one that he didn't get. And I'm thinking to myself, so when you die, and if you're going to go before your God, you're going to look like a 5-year-old that's been caught doing something by the father. And your father's going to be looking at you, and you know he found you out. So now you're trying to kick the pebbles on the ground and put your head in your pocket and kind of act dumb like you didn't know what you were doing and try and come up with some kind of an excuse that he will buy. And so I tell Christians, get ready for that. Because when you wake up on the other side after you die and you're before your God, you're going to find out that you were lied to from day one. You never, ever came close to knowing what was going on. So now you're going to have to explain to God how you got to be so damn stupid.
And welcome back to Truth Frequency. This is Chris Geo, joined as always by my lovely co-host Cherie. And we are discussing religion with the one and only Jordan Maxwell. His official website, once again, is jordanmaxwell.com. And Jordan, like I was saying before the break, I don't think that all this truth is going to be presented to people on a silver platter. I think it's going to be esoteric knowledge that you have to dig out for yourself. It's just like if you were working out. You know, you're not going to get a perfect body by sitting around eating fast food and whatever's thrown in your face. You're going to have to go to the gym. You're going to have to jog. You're going to have to really work to get that perfect body. Now, why wouldn't the same thing be with a perfect mind? You know, you're going to have to seek this knowledge out if you want to find it.
Well, of course, that's what the Scripture says. Of course, that's what the Bible says. I've even got that one of my lectures quoting right from the Bible. It says that something to the effect that that the honor of God is to conceal a matter. To conceal a matter is what God does. And to search out that matter, to search out that secret, is the honor of a man. So God gives you secrets of the universe. He gives you secrets. Well, think about it. The life you live, where did the earth come from? You know, like that one astronomer said, the universe is not only stranger than you imagine, the universe is stranger than you can imagine. There are mysteries out there, all out into the universe. There are mysteries here on earth you haven't even looked at yet. And so, you know, the creation by God, so to speak, is a mystery. And happily, most people do not have the intellectual acumen to deal with the mystery, so they just watch TV. But if you've got a brain and you start thinking about what the Bible is saying, what the holy books of the world are saying, you begin to see that there's a whole different story than what you thought was there. The Bible is filled with an incredible story. I don't put the Bible down. I'm not complaining. I'm not suggesting the Bible is worthless and useless. No. My feeling about the Bible, the Christian, the Jewish Bible, is that there is a profound, awesome stuff hidden. It's hidden in the Bible. And until and unless you start looking at the Bible as a metaphor, as a symbolic metaphor for something very ancient which has been known, and when you start breaking down the words and the terms and seeing what the Bible is actually saying, all of a sudden it takes on a completely different hue completely, and then you see for the first time that churches are as far removed from anything spiritual as anyone can be. There is nothing spiritual in Israel, period. There's nothing holy in Israel. There's nothing holy in Rome. There's nothing holy in Salt Lake City. There's nothing holy anywhere on the earth that has to do with man-made corporate religions. It's just the Crips and the Bloods, gangs that are vying for power. There's nothing holy in Israel, as I've said before. The only thing holy in Israel are the stories that come out of it. They're full of holes. When you start looking at the words and terms and symbols and the actual history of the Jewish people, their actual, real, legitimate, de jure history, not the silly nonsense they put on the History Channel and the Discovery Channel, but go to the libraries and get the old reference books and really go back and see where the Christian church actually began and who this man Jesus actually was, not who you thought was. And then you begin to see that the New Testament itself is simply a metaphor. It's a symbolic story telling you something, and that's why it even has Jesus saying, though I don't believe Jesus ever existed, it's a metaphor. And the metaphor has Jesus saying, many will look with their eyes, but not see, and will listen with their ears, but not hear, and with the heart not get the sense of it. And that's exactly what's going on in both Judaism and Christianity and Islam. All three are people of the book. Because all three religions, both Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, rely on a book. Without the holy writings.
Well, you know, I seem to remember a passage from the Bible that says, keep your eye on God. Now, were they referring to the pineal gland?
Well, that's exactly what they're referring to. precisely. And then the Bible has Jesus saying, and if your eye be single, then you will be able to be in touch with God. What do you talk about, the single eye?
If your eye shall be single, then your body shall be full of light. But if your eye is full of darkness, how great is that darkness? That was Matthew 6:22.
Yep, that's it. And so, as I said, I believe that I know what the Old Testament is. The Old Testament is a is a document in commerce. The Old Testament has to do with commerce, business. And look up the word commerce in a law dictionary. It's interesting. Look up the word commerce in a law dictionary. It will tell you commerce by law is sex. Sex is referred to as commerce. Then look up the word in a law dictionary. Look up the word Congress. We love to have all these congressmen, and people talk about the Congress said today, and Congress did this. Look up the word Congress, what it means. Congress is sex. There's Kores and there's Congress.
Now,
Congress is a sex act.
Where does the word congregation come in? Is that derived from that as well?
Yeah, that's a whole different story. And that goes back to the word church. Church comes from a Scottish word, kirk, K-E-R-K or K-I-R-K, kirk. Kirk in Scotland is church in English. That's why you have Captain Kirk on the good ship Enterprise, because that's what a church is. It's a corporation. That's why churches are divided into denominations, 10s, 20s, and 50s and 100s. So when you get Star Trek, taking Captain Kirk, captain goes back to the word capital, which means money. Capitalizing means to put money into. So the captain of a ship is, when you start breaking down the maritime admiralty words and terms, well, what a story. Why? And it also has to do with the fact that all ships, rocket ships, sailing ships, any kind of a ship, has to be female, always. That's why all captains will talk about their ship, whether it's an airship, an airplane, jet, whatever it is, it's always she. She's a good ship, she's seaworthy, she's this, she's that. Because all ships by maritime admiralty law are female. Why? Because she produces the product. Without her, there ain't no product. So she produces the product. She's the one that keeps business going. Without the woman, there is no business. The men are going to die off, and that's it. It's over. No more business. The game's up. Why? Because the women are not producing. So the woman produces the product. That's why all ships are female. And consequently, when a ship pulls into harbor, let's say it's bringing in $800 million worth of Toyotas. Well, yesterday when you were at work, the ship wasn't here, but this morning you came in, there's a ship here. So it has manifested. Now, what is it manifested? Well, it manifested $800 million worth of business. So each one of those Toyotas or televisions or whatever came in on a ship. Ships come in on water. And so therefore each one of those Toyotas or TVs has to have its own certificate of manifest. And so on each item has to have its own certificate. Coming off she is giving to the world, she's bringing it to you on water. She's parked at the dock. And so, and where a ship sits, because if she's a she, we say where a ship sits is her berth, B-E-R-T-H. Her berth is where a ship sits. So the berth is she is sitting in her berth next to the dock, tied off at the dock. And therefore, every item has to have a birth certificate. So when you were born, you came out of your mother's water. Her water broke. You are a maritime admiralty product. She gave birth to you. She was in labor. And in labor, she produced you. And so since she produced you out of her water, you are a maritime admiralty product, and she was sitting in her berth, so you have to have a birth certificate. And it's got to be signed by the dock, because that's where the damn ship was sitting, is at the dock. And so once you understand how money works, banks work, governments work, courts work, religions work, understand the way the whole entire planet works. It's maritime admiralty, the law of water. So we say, money goes through your hands like water. No, money is water.